Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
Episode 34, Old School Marketing Still Works.
And here's the thing. So let's say we've developed these relationships. Let's say we've asked for the reviews. Let's say we volunteered our time. Let's say we've done all these things. The biggest thing to remember in any relationship, and this is something that I'm sure everyone can connect to in their own personal lives, is sometimes if you're not hearing from a client, it's not that, they forgot about you. A lot of people are just busy, right? We're just busy. And it's even with some of my best friends, like people that I've been I was like their best men, at their weddings. I was there for their mother's wedding, like whatever it was. Like these are people that are really close to me, but we're just busy sometimes. And so are our clients. And this is something to always remember. So it's so important for us as service providers to stay relevant in our clients' minds, right? So if this means send a text, how's everything going with so-and-so? Send a newsletter out, how's everything going with so-and-so? When it comes to social media, it's just putting a post, right? That makes you relevant in their mind for that split second that they might be looking at it. But if you do something a little bit more personal, maybe send a postcard out, write an email to them just to see how they're doing. Or you do like I remember when COVID happened, check this out. So I left my old company with a long list of clients, okay, before I started Canis. And obviously, I would say it was definitely close to 2,000 clients I had over the last 12 years, emails, all this stuff. Well, obviously, I'm not hearing from almost 2,000 people, right? No, not 2,000 people are not referring to me. But check out what I did when COVID happened. I decided to do a series of free live streams every Sunday at 10 a.m. on the dot for 3 months. I did that for 3 months straight, free live streams. And I would send emails on the Friday before or the Saturday before to let everybody know, and with a link for Sunday morning. And I cannot explain to you how many old clients, like clients I trained their dogs 6, 7, 8 years ago, who not only joined the live stream, but then referred their friend or their son or their cousin, or they called me back because they just got a new puppy for COVID. Like just being relevant and reminding them, hey guys, I'm still here. That was so important. Just keep them just stay in the back of their mind. I got some business, I got a shit ton of business out of it. So yeah, finding a way to really stay in the back of your clients' minds. Now, obviously clients that are super close to you, kind of easy to do, but clients who, our relationship with them might be a little distant, you have to actually put some effort into it for sure.
Yeah. I agree to that. And I remember when you were doing those live streams, I think that's right when the podcast was like super new, right?
Yeah.
We were like
Yeah.
6 episodes in at that point. And you were urging me to do the same thing. And I was like, yeah, that is a really good idea. Um, that's the kind of thing I can attest to that, like not only as a business owner for being on this side of that coin, but also on the other side of that coin, because just once again, the Jimmy Thompson, the realtor, that's what he does. He sends like postcards and stuff and I see him every Wednesday in the networking thing, but
Mm-hmm.
he'll send me little things like that. He'll hit me up like, hey bro, coffee? Yeah, I'm like, sure. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not even a client of his yet. I haven't bought a house from him, but he's just a genuinely good person, And I'm
Yep.
like, but I know he's a realtor, so like that never leaves my mind. So I'm like, yeah, when I want a house,
Yeah. Yeah.
I want this.
Yeah.
And the amazing and the genius thing I think is like the live streams
Yep.
and like your dad. And I fucking love your dad, by the way. Tell your dad I said hi.
What's up?
Um, the whole thing about people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
You doing live streams, me and Jimmy Thompson sitting down for coffee, stuff like that. Um, you're still talking about your expertise. So in a very authentic, normal, natural way, you're still kind of letting me know what you know, which is a ton, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so like we'll sit there and talk about whatever's going on, and he'll talk to me about, hey, how are your things with work going? And I'll talk dog training. How are your things at work going? And he'll talk selling homes and what's been going on with this whole thing. And so either way, you're learning how much these people have mastered their craft and how valuable they are in terms of like a professional to hire. So,
Mhm.
it's great to stay in their minds because you've become a friend, but I've never lost sight of the fact that you are a realtor, that you are a dog trainer, that you are a whatever.
Mhm.
And I do think that that's kind of a lost art these days. I admit, like sending out cards. Like one thing that we did was we bought Christmas cards and we sent out Christmas cards.
Right.
And you're right, man. People were sending us back. I had people send me back checks like of tips and I'm like, oh no no no, that's not what I meant. Like I just wanted to know how
It's
you
not
were
a
doing.
donation.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and they were like, no no no, please here because I'll tell you what, like my dog has just been so much better. Like I know it's just money, but I just need you to know like I appreciate this.
Oh,
And I'm
that's so
like,
sweet of them.
okay, well thanks, man. Like I'm glad to hear it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's weird just how much a little postcard, a little something, a little hello can really brighten someone's day.
Mhm. Yeah, and on a bright note for your business, it reminds them of how you impacted their life. I
Right.
think that's really important thing. All right, so I want to kind of wrap up this podcast a little bit, and let's just kind of go over just some main bullet points, some
Okay.
takeaways of what to do. The number one takeaway from this is that even though social media is important, the old school way of marketing and doing business in person, interpersonal interactions, it still holds an amazing return on investment, right? Like the amount of time you put into either volunteering or staying in a certain place or certain. I'll tell you this cool little story.
Sure.
At my old company, I used to teach at a park. Okay, I would take my group classes and instead of teaching, I would start them at the business and then I would move them over to a park. About 3 years ago, they turned this park into an actual dog park, which was nuts, right? So literally for the last, actually no, not 3 years, 2 years. For 2 years, this dog park existed at this park, and within 2 years, I started. Even though I've been teaching at this park for 6 years, within 2 years, I started literally meeting so many people at this dog park that anytime someone needed a dog trainer, they would refer me to another person at that dog park, right? And so we would have, in essence, I kind of had a territory almost, right? At this particular dog park in Westwood, anyone who needed dog training, there would always be at least 3 to 4 people in that dog park at any given time that would refer me to a new puppy owner or a new person or whatever. And that number has just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Right. So the way that started was I would show up to the dog park. I would take my dog to the dog park. I would talk to people. I would continue to hold classes at that park. 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year later, I am currently running 4 different basic obedience group classes at that park on 4 separate dates of the week, right? And it's crazy. It's crazy how just sticking to one spot, really getting to know the people, really getting to develop an understanding of the environment and the needs and all that stuff has really just created a huge kind of a referral machine, right? There's this referral machine. And all I did was I focused on the people. I focused on interacting with them. I focused on introducing myself and letting them know what I did and how I could help them. And I did it in what I would consider to be a humble way, right? I didn't want
Mhm.
to do anything in a weird way, you know? Um, yeah, that's what I had to say. What's next?
No, I agree. I think that's kind of what I found myself doing here, in the Phoenix area because I in LA, I mean, LA is such a big place, but still it's possible. I mean, we know trainers in LA who are like super busy and very well known and so on. So even though it's like a big pond, and Phoenix is still a pretty big ass pond too. It's one of the bigger cities in the country. I find that it's
Hmm.
still really possible as long as you find that kind of core park, like, and I'm thinking of a park more in like a metaphorical sense. Like you find that core space, that core territory, whatever you want to call it, and
Hmm.
just be around, be available, be there to talk to people and like, when people have questions or whatever the case, want to learn more, want to do more, you need to be open to like, okay, let me talk to you. Let's see what we can
Yeah.
do. And I
Now,
think that
now sorry, I want to. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, finish your point.
no, you're good. Well, that's what I've been learning in terms of just having coffee with people, just hanging out, just learning how to make new friends.
Yeah, and be interested in people, and
Right.
And what I want to do, I want to line you up for this next one because I think you'll be able to really tell a good story on this.
Okay.
I've been gifted with just this such a huge interest in human beings that I've been able to, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, I really like just talking to random strangers and random people. But I think this next point, developing the skill set of talking to people, in essence, is what keeps a lot of people from being able to do these things that we're recommending and we're talking about, right? Old school marketing really revolves around the individual's ability and competence in dealing with people, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I guess I'll throw this over to you. Like, what advice do you have for our listeners?
Advice for our listeners that I've learned, and for people who don't know, I guess you wouldn't know because this is a podcast, but like in life in general, I am not a super social person. I don't think I'm like Oscar the Grouch. I go out, I do my thing, I have my hobbies and my sports and my stuff. But outside of my core group, I'm not the social butterfly that like Brent is. I like keeping it real small and real simple. And I've noticed lately that that is not helpful for building a business. And it is true that it's also better to be a little more open, a little more sociable just in life in general. So in terms of developing that skill of talking to people and genuinely being interested, I don't want to feed you some bullshit of like do these three things like um, number one, I would say find where your personal like internal vulnerabilities lie when it comes to talking to people and address it, work on it, whatever that looks like. Brene Brown's got amazing books on this kind of topic. And when you go into a situation with that sort of mindset that like, yeah, maybe I'll say something dumb. I don't know. Maybe I won't. Maybe we'll be amazing friends. Maybe we just won't have anything in common. It's all a possibility, but learn how to be okay with taking the risk, so to speak. Then
Hmm.
you're more likely to just say something, just say anything.
Hmm.
Other than that, I would say again, without being a little too hokey about it, there are actual skill sets that you can learn when talking to people. Read different books on like interpersonal communication, read different books on speaking to groups of people. A way that I got better about it naturally was I've noticed that even the most introverted or antisocial of people, they can talk to someone when it's in the context of their work or when it's in the context of something that they
Hmm.
know a lot about and care a lot about.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if you're like a dog trainer who's otherwise a shy person, but you're a dog trainer, you're good, start a group class. You're going to be
Yeah,
talking to six to, I don't know, eight people at a time. And you're going to develop the skill sets therein, right? Who to give attention to, how to take everybody's attention when it's time to talk as a teacher to the class. And once you're getting solid and comfortable with that, push out, like not in your group class, but just in normal social life, push out into other things, talk to big groups of people about other things, and just learn how to engage with everyone and be a part of the group.
that's amazing. Amazing advice. I love that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen that, and I've seen that in people that I've worked with and people that I've mentored. It's we all come with different DNA. We all come with different upbringings. We all come with different self talks that we give ourselves. But definitely identifying those weak areas that are preventing you from being able to market yourself or have the confidence to ask for that review or to develop that authentic relationship with those clients. I think, yeah, try and discover what those speed bumps are for
Right. And
sure.
and, and let me just say one more thing. I left this out because, you know, when we were talking about skill sets, this is one that I didn't so much develop myself. It was one that was
Hmm.
kind of taught to me. And this was by a client not too long ago. This was like 4 months ago, by a
Hmm.
client who's a marketeer. Like he works for Renewal by Anderson. It's that window company. And
Right.
he's like one of their higher ups for marketing and event coordination and stuff like that. He and I did a couple lessons after a board and train program with his dog at Home Depot, just for the distraction because it's busy. And in Phoenix, it's hot as hell. And 4 months ago, it was like 100 plus. So outside is really not an option. So
Hmm.
we'd go into stores and do lessons. And Petco's, I mean, they don't like other trainers doing lessons in there. So we'd go to other like non dog related places like Home Depots and Lowe's and, Hobby Lobbies and stuff like that. So
Right.
each and every lesson that he and I have done in there, every single one, not only were people complimenting his dog, but uh, they were talking to me as the trainer because he, being a marketing person, he was talking me up, and I was too dumb to realize it. And so like after like our third lesson that we did in a Home Depot, somebody comes up, wow, that's amazing. Oh, I wish my Dane would do that, this and that. And I'm over here thinking, kind of like we talked about earlier, like the new trainer, I just don't want to waste my client's time. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Here's a card. Let me get back to him, but I'd love to talk to you more. And then when we're done, he's like, why didn't you spend the 2 minutes to talk to her a little bit? Learn a little bit of her problem. Yeah, you
Mhm.
know what? Why don't we schedule something? I'd love to get right back. And he was like, why didn't you just say this? It would have taken you 90 seconds, bro. And last time
Yeah.
we did it,
Yeah.
these other two ladies talked to you. And then the first time we did it, that one guy talked to you. And I was like, and in my head, I was like, I was just trying to be attentive to you. He was like,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
like, that's fine, but I was talking you up. I was giving you the open.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
was like, you're right. But his point was when you're talking to people, because dog trainers naturally do that. Everybody does the same thing. Oh, you're a dog trainer? You're like Caesar? Oh, you must be so patient. You must be so this, you must be so this. And like
Yep.
everybody kind of generically knows how to play that off and have fun and just talk to someone friendly. But not
Right.
everybody knows how to convert that into useful conversation. Like, yeah, man, tell me about your dog. What troubles are you experiencing? This and that. Like he was talking about shifting it in the direction that's valuable for you. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
love to talk more about this. Can I get your phone number? Can I,
Yep.
what's his Instagram? What's this and that? And don't be
Yep.
afraid to kind of jump in like that.
Yeah, it's you're taking the attention and you're converting it into a lead,
Correct.
and I think it's something as simple. It's so funny, and this is I hope this doesn't come off wrong, but it's kind of like dating. It's kind of like talking to people, that you might be romantically interested in, right? Because it's the same kind of thing. It's having a conversation like you have 10 seconds to buy the next 10 seconds of conversation, right? And if you don't get that next 10 seconds of conversation, then you don't have a conversation, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like I'm every 10 seconds you're trying to buy the next moment. And when someone is talking you up like that, I think it's important for you to, yeah, it is hard. It's a hard skill to be like, hey, maybe I get their number, maybe I get their email, maybe I give them my website and I text
Hmm.
it to them. But at least you have that connection.
Hmm.
And whether or not that's going to turn into a business transaction down the line, at least you made the connection.
I
Whether if you get a girl's number, whether you guys actually go on a date, well, it's not about that actually, whether you go on the date. Sometimes it's just about getting the number, you know?
I
So anyways.
agree. And when since you bring up dating, here's the funny thing about like my fear and the newer trainer's fear, like we were talking about earlier, with sticking to the
Mhm,
script was
mhm.
I didn't want to I didn't want to throw too much at them. I didn't want to feel like I was too aggressive. I don't want to be that weird
Right.
salesman. And when it comes to dating, you don't want to be too like whatever that word is. But everybody knows what we're talking about. Like, yeah, don't be too
Too
much.
pushy, too
Too
pushy. You
pushy.
know, yeah.
But on the flip side, everybody's spoken to that one person who was like, I don't know, are they even into me? Because if they are, they're not letting me know. So
Exactly.
so like from a client's perspective, it's like, if you're not handing out your card to somebody who's clearly asking you about dog training because they're impressed with your work,
Yeah,
what are they thinking? Are they like, oh, okay, asshole, like, do you not want any more clients right now? Like, just give out the card. If they don't reach out to you, that's okay. But make sure that it's not because they didn't feel like they were welcome. Make sure
right.
you did your job.
100%. Yep. That is a great, clarification and point to make. Dude, totally. Here's my last point that I wanna make.
Mhm.
And this is actually something you wrote down, is make sure that you nurture relationships, right? Because
Mhm.
you never know when or if they'll pay off, right? My nurturing relationships can come in a bunch of different ways, but this is a story that my mentor taught me, and this is something that I always think about anytime I'm dealing with any particular client. This is more of a short term payoff. Okay, my mentor used to run an electronics store where they sold stereos and everything. And back when he was a young salesman, back in the 70s, they would pretty much, they would be open from 9 to 6, right? He says he remembers a there was a gentleman at like five. They close at 6, and the gentleman walks in at 5:50, right? And he's walking around looking at a bunch of stereos, looking at a bunch of speakers, and he's over here already sweeping up the store. And they're sweeping up the store, and this guy's still walking around. And instead of telling the guy, "Excuse me, sir, we're closing in 10 minutes, please get out," he decided to walk up to the guy and go, "Hey, how can I help you?" Right? And he goes, "Yeah, I'm just looking. My girlfriend's really interested in buying some speakers, and I'm just looking around. What do you recommend?" And so instead of trying to shoo the guy out the store, or kick the guy out, he just kind of said, "Well, let me talk to you. Let me show you around." Like, even though they were closing, he almost made it seem as if they weren't going to close.
Hmm.
And he decided to open up the whole store to him, and he started demoing different stereos, different speakers, different things, right? And he shows the guy around, and he takes the time to nurture this relationship. He takes the time to get to know this guy, what he needs and everything. And little did my mentor know that this guy would then later, when his girlfriend pulled up in the car, they would buy $10,000 worth of equipment
Hmm.
in one night.
Hmm.
In one night, right? And so this is an example of, if you just take every client as, again, you never know what could come from any client, right? It could just come no transaction. But if you treat every single client with the same love and attention and care, you will be so surprised at what potential payoff can happen later in the future, right?
Yeah.
And yes, it takes work, and it takes energy, and it takes um, effort for sure. But I've been paid off, and I mean that in a metaphorical way, and sometimes in a literal way. Like, a lot of clients have bought from me, but 2 months later, 3 months later, 6 months later, 1 year later, a client who I completely thought, forgot about me, straight up just refers someone to me that I'm just like, "Thank you. This client was one of the best clients ever."
Yeah, it is the weirdest thing, and it's funny because it's not even always a direct, like, it's not even always necessarily a referral. Sometimes
Right.
it's like a client from 3, 4 years ago referred someone to me, and I trained their dog, so it was a referral. But this person whose dog I trained, this referral from my original client, this person is now just an amazing good friend of mine. You know,
Right.
I have friends who started as clients who we do game nights with them all the time. Like, it has the potential to turn into so much more than a client, a referral, and like it's absolutely invaluable. And the funny thing is, yeah, you're right. I wrote this down, but I wrote it down because I learned this from you. I was just the
Mm.
one who wrote it down. Nurture those relationships because you never know when they'll pay off, and that's kind of what I meant earlier when I was talking about like head knowledge is an interesting thing. Like, that, like, people listening to this right now, they're hearing me, they know this, but it's interesting to find out, and I'd love to know, by the way, guys, like, reach out to us and let me know if this really starts to work for you. If you start to use this information like 6 months, a year from now, whatever the case, let us know, because it's funny between understanding a concept and knowing how to actually do it in the real world. But yeah, like, nurturing relationships is an amazing thing. It's absolutely invaluable. Since I've been kind of on that kick of trying to get better about it, I've even been trying to, like, get in touch with old high school friends, and so, like, I'll
Nice.
I'll, like, call them and talk to them, and, and I'm here talking their ear off, and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. I just wanna be a part of more people's lives all of a sudden," you know?
Yeah.
It's a weird shift.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree 100%, man. I think that kind of wraps up this episode. I think we hope that this episode really provided some value for you guys. These are just some of our experiences. Some things that we know to be tried and true as marketing techniques to help you get leads, to help you get further business. It's really, really important. If you guys found this episode informative or helpful, these tactics don't just work for dog trainers. They work for anyone who has any business, who's a self-starter, who is trying to create business or leads for themselves. I recommend go ahead and do this. Please, if you guys can, share this with at least one other person. That would be awesome. And also, those of you guys who are listening, whatever podcast platform you're on, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Google, doesn't matter. Please go ahead and leave us a review on there as well. So that way other people who are looking for podcasts, if they see your guys' reviews, then they can at least be guided towards this particular podcast, so that we can help them as well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. This is episode 34, all about how old school marketing still works. Again, my name is Brent LaBrada, and that guy over there is Mariano Alvarez. And we want to thank you guys so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you guys at episode 35. Peace.
Peace. Thank you for listening to the Dog Trainers Podcast, a podcast created by dog trainers, for dog trainers, or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
We really hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we hope to see you back for the next one. But in the meantime, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Dog Trainers Podcast. Go ahead and leave a comment. Ask us any questions that you want. We would love to connect with our dog trainer communities all around the world. Take care, guys. We'll see you next time.